This episode is brought to you by Dave. When you need money in a pinch, Dave can help. It's a banking app that can help you get up to $500 instantly. No interest, late fees, or credit check. Join the millions already using Dave to get financial relief and sign up for an extra cash account to get up to $500 instantly. Go to dave.com/Spotify or download the Dave app now. For terms and conditions, go to dave.com/legal. Instant transfer fees apply. Banking services provided by Evolve Bank and Trust, member FDIC.
Hail cheaters. Welcome to the Always Cheating Podcast. My name is Josh, here with Brandon. Brandon, how are you?
I'm good, Josh. Another in media res FPL podcast. I feel like this,
That's right.
The home stretch, which we're going to talk about today, which, you know, we're kind of midstream in game week 34. And boy, I've got some things to talk about with my bench boost. We can dig into that.
Yeah.
But I think, like, morally, a lot of not morality, but just for morale. I think talking about just the rest of the home stretch. Let's think big. Let's think positive. Let's put positive energy out there, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's funny because it leads into I threw a question right at the top here from David, 23 FPL, and normally there's these questions that we get that are just basically like why do we do this, when someone's in a bad week. But I really like the straightforward way that this question was asked, and so I was like, all right, I'll throw it on the pod. And he said, is it possible to continue to enjoy the game if you keep getting red arrows? My last green was almost 2 months ago on the 6th day of March. So this is what you were talking about, Brendan. You got to keep casting a wider eye. Sometimes, you know what? This game week's not going great. Let's look ahead to last game week. Things go bad enough. Let's look ahead to a stretch of 4 game weeks. Things go bad enough. Let's look ahead to next season. Okay, that's when there's always a next season. So just that's where we're. I mean, I would say I really. Okay, I mean that's actually a great question. Like just straight up, do you enjoy FPL? Well, I mean, I guess it's like you always. You never know if it's going to be a terrible, terrible game week. Sometimes you know right away. Sometimes you know after the first early morning fixture. But is FPL still fun when it doesn't go well? Is that a question that you can answer? What do you think? Is FPL fun when it doesn't go well?
I think that the short answer is no, but the long answer is yes. And what that means is when it's happening to you, it's deeply unfun. Yeah. It's like waking up with a hangover for anybody who's had a few drinks. You're just like, why did I do that? And I'm never drinking again. But similarly, a couple weeks later, you show up at a party, all your friends are there. Hey, let's crack open a beer and have a few laughs. This is why FPL, when it stings and it feels unfun, and like the question asker, you've got a lot of red arrows in a row. There's always next weekend, and here in New York, the Saturday kickoffs early in the morning. You know that feeling, Josh. You know it well. You wake up and you're waking up into football and into FPL.
Yeah.
And there is no bad game week that is ever going to take that feeling away from me. And I think you would agree with that. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's 11 seasons we've been playing this thing now, I think. And I still get up on Saturday mornings. It's actually to the great consternation of my family that I cannot wake up Monday through Friday ever. It's like I have to set 3 alarms to roll to bed. But on a Saturday morning, I'm like up and I'm making coffee at 6:30. I'm just like so excited.
Flipping omelets and wishing everybody a happy Saturday morning.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I don't even need an alarm. I just be up at 5:45 making my transfers. So I think there's that. I think hope springs eternal. I do have despite the fact that I can come in here and be ranty sometimes, I actually do have an optimistic sort of frame of mind when it comes to the game, and I'm always sort of I'm always expecting things to go well in the future. But I also, the alcohol analogy is a good one because I think, I went to an event. I was telling you before we started the pod last night on Friday evening. It was an open bar event, always dangerous, no matter how old you get. And I was there as some friends of the pod, actually. Noah and Louise were there too, Brandon, and. I was there, I was chatting with a friend, and he went to get a glass of water, right? Mixed up the alcohol. I knew I was going hard. They hand you a glass of champagne the second you walk in the door. That's always a danger sign, right? Because you're drinking that, you're a little nervous. I haven't been to a school, it's like a big school function, right? This thing I was at. I was a little nervous. Down the glass right away. Right. So instantly 20 seconds in, I'm on to, not 20 seconds, but like 5 minutes in, I'm on to the hard stuff, And
they're like, sir, that wasn't a shot glass. That was a flute.
Exactly. It was, I just downed my flute like instantly, just I'm nervous, like chatting and drinking. And then, but anyway, I was talking to a friend and he stopped and got himself a glass of water, right? Broke up the alcohol with the glass of water. And I think that is the approach you should take with FPL, which is to walk away from paying attention for a couple hours at a time. I think that is the equivalent of the glass of water. If you're having a bad game week and it's not going well, don't watch the final game on Saturday. Don't track it. Don't follow it. Check the score later because it never stings as much when the match is fully completed. Right. Yeah. When I'm looking, it doesn't matter how badly it went for me. If I'm looking at scores from matches that happened 5 hours ago, I can sort of accept it in a kind of sober way. Right. Whereas if it's happening in real time and I'm tracking it, I'm just like, okay, this is bad and it's only going to get worse. And so I don't know. I think that glass of water approach might be helpful.
I'm looking back to game week 11, just this season. Game week 11. To game week 15, 3 red arrows in a row, dropped from 192K to 507K. And I see this it's all down to your personality, right? But some people will see their season's not going well and they will withdraw from FPL. And I've never been one to just say it's not going well, therefore I'm going to have a laugh. My feeling is always I have to keep trying. I have to keep trying to make good decisions. And
you're dogged.
I am dogged. I'm indefatigable.
I wouldn't go that far, but let's say dogged.
I am fatigable. Yeah, it's true. But I mean, sometimes it feels like it's not an appropriate reward for, like you're pushing through 6-7 red arrows just for one little green. You're kind of like, why? But you gotta find that first building block, and you've got to just build good habits. And as you said, Josh, this is our 11th season. We've had good seasons, not as good seasons, and the reason why I think we can continually have better than mediocre seasons is we just have built up good habits and have figured out how to not get eternally frustrated and just throw our towel into the ring, so to speak. So I guess that's my answer to this question is frustration can build and manifest in bad habits, and then that will just perpetuate everything, right? I
like it. So it's like the shine your shoes approach, right? It's like, it's like you're getting up in the morning, you're wearing a suit to work, right? You're still,
even though you work in the mailroom. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we've been 2 excellent metaphors, and so I think we can move on now. I did like that as an opening question, though. So let's talk about Game Week 34. We're in media res, as you noted. So we're recording on Sunday evening. We have matches Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So we have matches all throughout the week. Tomorrow's a weird one. It's a Leicester-Everton. I mean, an important match, actually, in terms of the relegation race. And then Monday you have Arsenal-Chelsea, which bizarrely has like no fantasy implications, which is kind of especially surprising because Arsenal were such a key fantasy team all season.
They disappeared like Kaiser Sose. Like, was that all a fever dream that Arsenal was must-have all season?
I know. I really wonder what it's too bad they're. Maybe it's a good time to play Chelsea. I mean, it probably is, but Arsenal's total ownership in the top 10K total. So like every single player combined, Brandon, is 23% right now. It was like 290 just a couple of weeks ago. So it's a dramatic change. I mean, the most owned player is Martinelli at 11%. Sonk is down to 6% ownership in the top 10K. So everyone has abandoned these Arsenal players, and it may come back to haunt us. I mean, we'll see on Tuesday. They haven't had a great run of fixtures, and they don't play twice at any point. And unfortunately, they're running for the next 2 weeks at least. It's not great. I mean, they're away to Newcastle. It's going to be a tough match, 35, and then. They host Brighton in 36, and I just don't think anyone wants to play Brighton at the moment. I joked about this it wasn't even a joke. I was being serious, but it felt like overnight Brighton became the Premier League's one of their best and deepest teams. It was like they not only are they good, but it's like they have incredible squad depth. It's remarkable how this happened.
Yeah, right. You watched that game against Wolves on Saturday, and De Zerbi just kept taking younger and younger guys off of the bench, and they came on and they looked equally proficient. And for them to, one of the key FPL stories from the weekend was all the benchings that happened against Brighton, Wolves, Matoma, and McAllister starting from the bench. But still, they managed to just absolutely dominate Wolves. Wolves, who, Resurgent, I think, is putting it strongly. But they've been competent under Lopetegui. Yeah. I was shocked at how much they put over Wolves. That was kind of an incredible performance.
It was incredible. It should have been more. Honestly, I feel like they could have scored like 9 in that game. So my game week is going fine so far. Feel pretty good about it. I'm on 61 points. Small. I guess not small. A nice green arrow. I'm up to 5,400 overall. I only have 9 players left to play twice, which isn't bad, but I know some people have even more. And so I feel pretty good. Cody, I came in this pod last week, Brandon. It just goes to show how quickly things can change, right? And you have to be very sober in terms of your transfers, right? Because I came in this pod last week and I was very frustrated with Kodias Gakpo, Brandon, and I was thinking Cody out, but then my sober, rational part of my brain said, no, don't do that, don't be silly. Hold on to the double game weekers, move on from Martinelli for Rashford, which has worked out extremely well. And but Cody got 10 points at midweek and 8 points in the first half of this game week, so 18 points since I basically dismissed him as a fantasy asset. So but I brought him in for a reason, and this is part of the fun of fantasy is you can be I don't know, it's fun to rant, but when it comes to actually making your transfers, you have to make sure that you're not letting emotions take over.
That's where the real opinions come to light, when you actually have to click the complete transfer button.
It feels good to complain, doesn't it? I enjoy complaining just about as much as anybody, Brennan. You may be indefatigable, but I am. I don't know. I can never run out of complaints that I can issue. So, but I feel good. And then Dominic Solanke scoring late really made me feel good too, because I was considering making a more elaborate, like one extra transfer, right? Just get one extra double game weeker, and I just held on to Solanke instead, and I feel really good about that because 8 points from a 5 million player, 5.5 whatever he is, that's just great value for the money. So that's where I am. I know you're in a slightly trickier spot, although it's not over by any means. But I don't know. Well, how are you feeling about your bench boost so far?
So, when the United States military had an operation, across the coast of France, you had, beaches on Omaha, some entry points further north or south. Some of those fine young men were deployed onto the beach and met little resistance. Some poor poor souls, met with greater resistance. And I feel like my bench boost was on one of the more sobering, high action beaches. I had, I think, what did I have? I had 12 double game weekers, and just this weekend I lost 2 of them to season-ending injuries. Kurt Zuma down. I mean, Kurt Zuma sprained his ankle. Just knowing what I know about Kurt Zuma, guy who looks like the kid in gym class who gets really pissed off when the gym teacher says it's time to run. I'm not seeing him coming back. And Andreas Pereira has, he basically went off the pitch in a hyperbaric chamber. So I'm not expecting to see.
I know that was, yeah. At least you got some points out of him in the previous game. Both of them, actually. Honestly.
Both Zuma and Andreas. So now the trick is, how do you actually measure the success of a bench boost? And it can really only, do you say, I'm going to set up my team so that the people on my bench are literally the people I would not start if I had a bench boost? If that's the case, then I have 11 points with another fixture for Allison to play. My bare minimum was 20 points. So right now I'm viewing my bench boost as a failure. I'm on 62 points right now, which is a pretty high game week rank score of 669K. But I did take a -4 to bring in March, to bring in Ederson, who we all would have predicted got a 1-pointer, and Marcus Rashford, who did come through. Ivan Toney was really the leading light here with a very lucky free kick goal. And beyond that, we're just looking at a Haaland captaincy and a Dunk clean sheet.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's so weird because Navas has been so great for Brentford, and then he got beat on 2 kind of weak near post shots in the same match. It was kind of strange. I don't know, just fluky, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know that the second goal, the winning goal for Brentford, I feel like Navas was maybe a little unsighted. Wissa maybe was in an offside position. Additionally, it was was it deflected? I don't recall. Anyway, it's hard to blame him.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of really interesting performances this weekend. I mean, I would have liked to have seen Andreas get the full 90 there, because Fulham really did test Man City in the second half. And it's just like lots of wild results. And I think if I had one lesson that I learned from this weekend in the first half of my bench boost, and I will cross my fingers that I have better news when the game week is over, is that, it's perilous to trust your fate to some very marginal players. Kurt Zuma did give me points earlier, but, players like Kurt Zuma, are they really a part of a bench boost? I don't know. I look back to game week 29, and I think teams were much better set up there, and there's been a lot of surgery since the last international break, and I think I've ended up with a bench boost team that's just had a little too many surgeries done to it, and I'm hurting from it. Now, I'm on a green arrow, so I can't be too sour, but the bounce I was hoping to get, and I think this is the chip talking, I really needed this. If I was going to make a run at the top 10K, I needed this to work. So it looks like I'm really just going to be gritting my teeth for top 25K at this point.
Well, I mean, like you said, you have 12 players left in play for this game week, right? So
but 2 of them, as we know, we left on the beach.
Right. So that's true.
They're not looking so hot right now.
Yeah, that's true. Well, 10 is still one more than I've got. So my attempt to cheer you up did backfire there. I won't pretend it didn't. But I think I don't know. I think that let's see what Allison does if he delivered him. You got the Botman assist, Brandon. So something,
Yeah.
I guess.
I love some real undeserved fantasy returns. That's something that can cheer you up. When you're six
true.
red arrows in a row, just getting something you really don't deserve.
Yeah.
That can happen for sure.
Maybe you'll get a dunk, header or something. You get a couple players at least that are somewhat lower in the ownership, category.
That's it. Yeah, I wish I had a few more. The March not making it to 60 minutes, I think, was the Zuma injury of the first match, and then March not making it to 60 minutes was like the canary basically dropped dead at that point on my game week.
Well, yeah, because they had scored 5 goals. Although, I mean, I came at it from the other perspective because I have McAllister and Matoma, and I'm watching them destroy Wolves.
Yeah.
And for those guys not to be involved in that match was driving me crazy because it was a great performance. I wasn't as annoyed as I could have been just because I was enjoying. I was honestly enjoying that match. They were playing so well. And then my boy Steele keeps coming through. So. All right, so that's where we are. We got several more games to go. Obviously, this week some really big ones. I'm really interested in that Man United Brighton match. I think that is suddenly a really really cool match, Brandon. I think we could see. I don't know. I mean, United have defended fairly well despite some of their injuries and held on against a Villa team that's been playing pretty well too. I think there were a couple of dangerous, nervy moments, but nevertheless, they kept Villa out. So I think Man United Brighton should be really fun, and it should be a full strength Brighton squad as well. So let's move on, Brandon, from our introduction here, and wanted to say thank you to our new Patreon supporters, and then we're going to take a break and we'll talk about game weeks 35 through 38. We're also going to take some listener questions. So quick thank you, though, to Ian Dunnington, Grant Parks, the Dork Lord. I think the Dork Lord is a returning patron. Great to see you back, DL. Yeah, and then DW, Dean West, right below. So remember DW from the Arthur? Did you ever read any of the Arthur stuff when you were a kid?
Oh man,
and,
I love Arthur. What a guy!
Oh, great guy, great family. The whole family. And Paul J. is the other new Patreon supporter. So people have really, we put out the call if the season's been helpful, and if you wanted some help the last 4 weeks, or you just want to say thanks, or it looks like you're going to win a mini league, then jump on the Patreon and chat with us in the Slack and get an extra podcast each week. So that's one we did last Thursday. It was very spicy. Brennan got mad at me a couple of times, and so that's always fun.
Dude, that felt good.
Some tension. Yeah, I know. You gotta let the the tea kettle. You gotta let the steam come out sometimes. So especially towards me, it's So but it's May. By the time you hear this pod, it'll be May 1st, and so May 1st is a great time, start of the month, to become a Patreon supporter. So go to patreon.com/alwayscheating. We'll be doing extra pods throughout the rest of the season, and we'll be doing some posting stuff too. Some stuff I want to talk to you about a little bit, Brandon. But the other thing I will note, though, is the month of June, when there's no Premier League, we do not charge our Patreon supporters. So that is a free month. So if you're like, do I want to join right now, right before the season ends, just note that in that off-season month, we will not be. You will not be charged to Patreon supporter. So anyway,
it's free.
Patreon.com/ it's free. It's we don't turn off the Discord, right? So it is free.
Yeah, the lights are on. We're just not paying for the electricity.
Yeah, exactly. So you can go to patreon.com/alwayscheating for that. Let's take a break and we'll get back to talk about game weeks 35 through 38.
Here's a little song I wrote about how to grow delicious herbs. Just use Miracle-Gro Potting Mix. It's not the longest song, because that's all you need to know. Just plant your herbs in Miracle-Gro Potting Mix and you're set. That's basically it. Then it's next stop, Grow Town. You'll grow healthier, stronger herbs versus unfed plants. Satisfaction guaranteed. Miracle-Gro. All you need to know to grow.
The all-new Chevy Colorado is made for more. Stacked with the latest in-vehicle technologies like a class-leading 11-inch diagonal center touchscreen and an extra-large wireless charging pad. Plus, it features wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility to make staying connected easy wherever your adventure takes you. Chevy Colorado. Made for more. Learn more at Chevrolet.com/truck/Colorado. Claims based on latest competitive data.
Well, listeners, in case you didn't get enough sports today, here's an ad break that'll tell you how to watch even more sports. YouTube is the new home of NFL Sunday Ticket. And if you sign up now, you'll get our lowest full season price of the year. Just go to youtube.com/presale to get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket. Watch your favorite teams out-of-market Sunday afternoon games, exclusively on YouTube and YouTube TV. All right, enough about sports. Go get more sports. Terms and embargoes apply. Offer ends June 6th. No refunds.
A Royal Caribbean vacation is all the vacations in one vacation. It's a hike that volcano, zip that zipline, surf that flow rider, cabana chilling, island hopping, sushi for lunch, lobster for dinner, ice cream all day vacation. A perfect day at Coco Cay Private Island in the Bahamas with a waterslide skyscraper and hot air balloon vacation, and it's all on one Royal Caribbean vacation. Visit RoyalCaribbean.com and come see the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
All right, Brandon, we're back. Part one. This is a two-part section, Brandon. Part the first is a look ahead to game weeks 35 through 38, the final 4 weeks of this English Premier League season. So it looks like, unfortunately, it looks like that was a lot of I kind of dipped off my energy at the very end there. I was thinking, I was actually in the part of the back of my head, I was thinking about, I'm a little sad that Arsenal are kind of, out of the title charge now.
Yeah,
but
they pooped the bed, huh?
Yeah, but the relegation battle is going to be awesome. So we've got that at least. It will be. It'll be very dramatic.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not quite as exciting as a title race, but still in its own way has some drama.
Yeah, I was just chatting with a friend of ours, Taylor Ferguson, who is a Leeds supporter, and he was just sort of like at his wit's end, and was like, "What do I do?"
They were bad today.
Yeah, and there's an interesting levels of hopelessness in the bottom five at the moment, like to varying degrees.
Yeah, I can't believe how well Bournemouth are playing. I thought they looked really good today, and I thought they looked really good in that Southampton match at midweek too. And it's like I'm very impressed with that club. I don't know. There's no real stars in there, but they're just really.
I was thinking the same thing. It's not like it's all one player that's making it happen for them, and they didn't go out and bring in some chump like Frank Lampard. No. O'Neill is fantastic, and I have previous with Scott Parker from his time at Fulham, and that guy's turns out he's just like a crazy egomaniac who doesn't know, much like Lampard, how to handle a group of people. Yeah, it's like the confidence that comes from being good looking is born out there. And Parker at the beginning of the season saying, "I've never seen a worse group of players. There's nothing I can do here. What do you want from me?" Fine, see you go get fired from Club Brugge and have a nice life. Meanwhile, Bournemouth are thriving, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, they're 12th. Yeah, exactly. So we're completely safe. I think they're on 39 points now. So good on them. We probably haven't sung their praises enough this season, but they have had a really nice home stretch here. Yeah. So looking at the game weeks 35 to 38, I thought we could just do some kind of big picture stuff here, especially if you're, there's this kind of world, there's these different listeners of the pod, Brandon. You have the hardcores, right? The I'm on Twitter every day. I've planned out every fixture through game weeks 35 to 38. And then you have the people who are like, well, I stopped playing fantasy about 20 weeks ago, but I enjoy having this podcast on Monday mornings, and I'm still listening. So we'll kind of have a little something for everybody at the start here, but just kind of big picture, Brandon. Who has the best fixtures? Which can also mean the most, right? But who has the best and who has the worst for the final 4 weeks of the season? Can you run us through those a little bit, the best and the worst?
Sure. Well, the first two teams that jumped out at me as having the best run without doubles necessarily was Fulham and Crystal Palace. And that's kind of a just setting the table because Fulham, I think, are no longer fantasy relevant with losing Tim Ream. losing Tim Ream, who we weren't going to have as a fantasy asset, but that messes up the defense. Then you've got Andreas Pereira, who was genuinely the most appealing fantasy asset on that team, and I think that also disrupts their attack, on top of the fact that Mitrovic is banned up until game week 36, which is actually only one game week away, believe it or not. Crystal Palace is a little trickier for me to answer, and it was fun watching Palace this weekend with Zaha back, because Crystal Palace has been balling out the last few weeks under Roy Hodgson, and I'm sure Zaha was watching these performances from afar, and it was great to see him then get involved and get his goal. And they have Spurs in game week 35, who leak like a sieve, followed by Bournemouth, Fulham, and Forest. Now, it's very appealing. So I think as we start getting injuries in the run-in, Palace, I'm going to be keeping in the back of my mind as maybe it's my first bench player or something like that. Yeah. But then you really do come to the two Manchester clubs. Man City, they have a double in 37, so you've got to wait for that. But they have incredible fixtures in 35 and 36 with Leeds and Everton. Yeah. The double in 37 is Chelsea and Brighton, followed by Brentford away, which will be actually a very interesting match. You know, we talk a lot about the G-Tech Stadium, but City are just like, that kind of doesn't matter to them. The trick with Man City is they are back in the Champions League, and they have the two-legged tie with Real Madrid, and that begins between game weeks 35 and 36, and then again between 36 and 37. Rest rotation, I don't know. I think what I suspect will happen with City, namely Haaland, is what we got 90 minutes of Haaland this weekend, and then we'll go back to just getting our 65 to 70 minutes of Haaland in that time frame. I don't think that he stops getting the consistent starts. I mean, how are you feeling about the defense with City, though, and sort of negotiating with that anxiety of rotation with Champions League? You brought in John Stones this week, and he's in great form.
It's like same as you, right? It's just like, I mean, you brought in Ederson, and it's like we kind of knew. I felt like I didn't burn points to do it, but I was like, which you probably wouldn't have either if you weren't on a bench boost. But it was just like, it's just, I mean, I don't know. This match actually was the trickier of the two fixtures. So let's get that out of the way right away. This idea that that they were going to, that it's insane that they conceded a goal at Craven Cottage. I don't think that's there's anything wrong with that. And in fact, if I don't know, Ederson can do whatever he wants. Like it must be so great to be a goalkeeper who has a reputation for being like a little too physical, because it means you can just grab players' legs and stuff like that.
He did not grab Vinicius's leg. He had a terrible match. Let's be clear about that. Yeah. Like he was so laissez-faire out there, and this did not get past the commentary, at least that I was listening to. But he stunk it up for sure. But Fulham I stand by my assertion that Fulham are a good team. It's funny to see a team have a good season and know that they're on the verge of a major rebuilding project at the same time. So I mean, City, we don't really have to dig into that too much, and Manchester United, they also double in 37. West Ham Wolves in the meantime is a pretty good double in 37, Bournemouth Chelsea, and then they're hosting Fulham at Old Trafford in 38, which is really great. I think the two most important teams for me, though, looking at the fixture run-in, are Brighton and Liverpool. So Brighton, as you noted, Josh, they're important because they have the most fixtures. They have a double in 36 and 37. You would think, given that as they push and try to stabilize for getting some sort of European competition, that the rotation we saw this weekend will probably be the first and the last of it. So get your triple up Brighton like ASAP, because they host Everton in 35, and then Liverpool they don't have any doubles, but that lineup, I think, is completely stable, barring the left wing with Diaz back. But the tried and true fantasy assets from Trent and Robbo to Salah, sure. And their fixtures are thus Brentford, Leicester, Villa, and Southampton. So I think a triple on Liverpool is mandated by me as well.
It's going to be really and Newcastle too. I'll throw them in the hopper there as well because they have a double in 36 and a pretty good one. I mean, they play away to Leeds, so that's a great first leg, and then they host Brighton in second leg, but it is at home, and they've been very strong there. So. But let's take the Brighton one first because I think that they have 6 matches from 35. In fact, they have actually 7 matches if you include the one they haven't played yet against Man United. And there's a question. I'll throw it into this into the hopper here, Brandon, because FPL Brooklyn says, should we keep the Brighton midfield double up? Although are those blanks just unlucky, or is it a sign that it's time to move on? And I don't know about you. My feeling is. I'm just holding. I cannot. Transfers are so precious this late in the season, and burning 4 to take out any of those Brighton players just does not make any sense, in my opinion.
I don't think it makes sense either, and I think you're moving the opposite direction. You're going the wrong way if you're getting rid of them, and I don't think Brighton enters into that conversation of I need to be different. And I need to not have these guys. Their sort of like affordability negates that argument. This is like Riyad Mahrez, Leicester City level. Just get them, and just by sheer minutes alone that Matoma, McAllister, and March are going to be playing, you're going to have some level of advantage. And I'm really loving all of the tactical articles that are being written about De Zerbi and what Brighton are doing and this sort of manufactured transitional play where you see this happen with Webster and Dunk, where they get the ball and before they begin the attack, they basically they don't release the ball. They don't pass the ball until one of the opposition, presses them. And then they create this manufactured transition, and that's this innovative thing that De Zerbi is doing. It's like they're creating counterattacks out of possession, which is so wild. And I think it's going to be a different prospect for this style after managers have had a whole summer to figure out how to counter it.
Conte with the 5 at the back. Yeah,
totally. But my point in saying that is, there's still a lot of juice to be squeezed out of Brighton right now. So that's definitely my feeling. Is a triple up is necessary
for sure, and I think in almost any trio works. One defend. It's like you can kind of. There's almost not an ideal trio. You can make an argument for. Steele is great because he's so cheap, right? So it opens up money across your squad. Matoma. I think has played really. I thought he played really well, kind of coming out of the once he was subbed into the match. I felt like he was really aggressive and really maybe a little unlucky not to get anything. McAllister kind of the same, honestly. And so I think given their squad depth, we might see a little more rotation. But they kind of just got their rest out of the way. That trio has not been rotated very much at all over the last 6-7 weeks at least. And so I don't know that I. And they had just played 120 minutes in the not the Champions League, in the FA Cup semifinal, and I think that might have also been a factor here. And so I really am not feeling super worried about kind of anybody in that team. I feel like the only thing I'm a little jealous of is Estupanian. I wish I really wish I could have like 4 or 5 Brighton players. I would take them if I could. If I weren't maxed out at 3.
The Estupinan owners who got the assist and the clean sheet. Awesome, but they will feel cheated because
came away.
And that would have been a nice assist for McAllister as well. But he's so good, such a great player.
Yeah, we've seen a couple of those like crazy. How did they not score? I still can't believe the Bruno one from late last week.
Off the crossbar.
Where he just hit it so hard. It was like, but he was straight through. So I think that, and as far as who is the worst. I'll handle the worst, Brandon. You handled the best. Now let me clean up with sweep the floor with the worst. By the way, it's kind of funny that Chelsea have a double and we didn't even mention them. Like they're so
Pass,
so
who cares?
thoroughly off the table. They play Bournemouth and Forest, and I'm still like, nope, no.
It's kind of funny. The hotels in Manchester are gonna love Chelsea because they are away City and away United in game week 37 for that.
But stay there, right, for 4 days or whatever it is. All right, so I'm trying to think. It's almost like you need to kind of combine fixtures with who's on the beach. I mean, at this point, it's like, do Spurs have the worst fixtures? No. Do you want any? I don't know. I mean, Harry Kane is. I think just looking all the way to the end of the season, I think that the game week 38 captaincy is going to be a really interesting spot because you have. And it kind of depends on what they're all playing for, right? Like Haaland is on 34 goals at the moment. I think that Haaland is shooting for 40 goals. I think that makes sense to me. He's got 6 fixtures left to go, right? The 5 ahead, but then also he's got the extra one in 34. I'd be surprised if he didn't do it. That'd be a goal a game. That's a rate that's he's effectively on at the moment. So I think he'll be shooting for that. But if he already hits that, Brentford are a tough place to play away, and so he may not. That could be like a heavily rotated Man City side. You have Spurs play away to Leeds the final week of the season, and that could be kind of Kane's farewell game in some ways. He may leave Spurs. Who knows what happens this summer? You have Man United, and they host Fulham at home. We just mentioned that Ream is out. Fulham are going to have nothing to play for. I mean, the ultimate 10th place team with a bunch of injured guys that have nothing to play.
Which means they're going to beat Manchester United 3-1 or something like that.
That's true. That is true. Exactly. But by logic, you would think, that they're going to run the table. And then, Liverpool play Southampton, and Southampton are just not great. So, I mean, Salah's on the table there as well. So I think, what I think makes that really cool is it isn't like you just have Haaland at home to Forest or something like that, where you're like, well, what are you gonna do? You got to captain.
Hands are tied.
Hands are tied. It's a tricky enough game week 38 that I think it'll really, like, if you're 18 points back, I think you could claw that back with a good transfer and a good captain pick in game week 38. So that's a fun thing to look forward to. If you're our friend. If you're our red arrowed friend at the start of the pod, Brandon, that's the one to look forward to.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. I think someone may have asked this about Odin Gladvelt asked this question. Great name, Brendan. Odin Gladvelt.
Truly great, yes.
I knew it Odin Gladvelt in college, actually. I wonder if it's the same one. It's probably not, right? It's who knows, but
I don't know. There are a lot of Odin Gladvelts out there.
There's a lot of Odin Gladvelts out there. I can think of 3. But Odin Gladvelt asked about, is it worth a -4 to get the Wilson and Isak double up for game week 36? So this is something that people were kind of, it's like at first it was a kind of a joke, and then as we got closer to it,
I was crazy like, it might work.
Yeah, I was like, well, maybe that should be on the table. I've got, obviously Haaland is unmovable. You have Villa playing Spurs at home, so that's a pretty good one. Bournemouth play Palace away. Fine, not great. And my plan right now is to bring in Isak for Solanke. I'm going to have to free up some cash to do that, but that is the move that I want to make for 36. And so but the question is, do I just try to get 2 of these Newcastle players in? Actually, you know what? I can't even do it because I have 2 defenders. But let's say you didn't have Botman and Trippier. What do you think about a double up with Wilson? And
I do like it. The interesting thing with Callum Wilson coming into this form is him playing in the 9 has pushed Isak out to the left. And that's not meant that Isak has played any worse. He's looked amazing. So it seems like that's working. And we've often looked for a way into the attack for Newcastle post Almiron, and this is it. Yeah. And it kind of happens at the ideal moment where Ollie Watkins' fixtures kind of turn, especially the last 2 fixtures for Villa are Liverpool and Brighton. And maybe their attacking fire is starting to burn out. And then you have Solanke and I have Tony. Brentford have one of the worst run-ins with Liverpool, West Ham, Spurs, and Man City. Now, I mean, those London fixtures are fine, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
But if you want to be proactive, Newcastle forwards just feels like a great place to be, and fun for that matter. And this 36 double for Newcastle, I think, gives you the excuse, because if it weren't for the Newcastle double in 36, I think I could genuinely argue, well, Tony is ticking along. As is Watkins, as is Solanke. Like, they're all doing fine. Nobody's got any complaints about any of these guys, unless you're still like a Darwin owner for some reason.
Yeah.
But it is that Newcastle double in 36 that does put this on the table. What if, Josh, you could only have one, Isak or Callum Wilson?
I guess I would go. I think that Wilson playing so well the last two matches has changed things a little bit. But I think I would still go with Isak just because I don't know. I mean, at some point you probably do see them both start a match, but I think that Isak has won the starting spot. So all things being equal, still give me the starter. But it's surprisingly close between the two of them now.
I agree with that viewpoint. I share that viewpoint. If I were I'm with you, I've got Botman and Trippier. I can only get one, and it doesn't feel worthy of a get Botman out to attack the double up front. But what is it? One clean sheet in the last 12 matches for Newcastle, or maybe not a clean sheet in 12. I don't know. It's grim. It's very grim.
Now you're getting like assists left and right though, by the way. So I think you're good. By the way, Harry Kane, the reason I'm saying this is because I was looking at Callum Wilson. I was surprised to see that he was 5th overall in terms of forwards this season. Do you think Callum Wilson is the 5th top forward? Insane. And then I was just looking at the top 5. Ollie Watkins moved up to 4th, which is kind of crazy. I mean, considering he had kind of a slow start to the year. But then I was looking at Harry Kane, and do you know how many goals Kane has scored so far this season? If you said to guess,
is it 22?
25.
Wow. Okay.
It's like it's really extraordinary. And so
he's going to break. He's going to secretly break the single season goal scoring record without anybody having spoken about it at all.
Well, it's an interesting thing though, because the most he has ever scored in a season is 29. He scored 29 twice in 16-17 and 17-18. It's 17 last year, 23 the year before that. So I think you could, I think that he'll be shooting for 30, and so. I do wonder, and I know I'm kind of like getting off topic here a little bit, but I would love to find a way to bring Kane in down the stretch, and I don't really know if that's possible. Again, it's like there's only 4 weeks to go, and so it's like you start to think about this stuff. You're like, I'd like to get Kane at some point, and you're like, well, when is that? When would that happen? Because I look at my transfers, and I can probably get away with holding a transfer in 35. And that, and I kind of want to do that because as I sort of think about how I possibly get Isak in, I'm not sure there's a way for me to do it without maybe turning Raya into like a 3.9 million keeper or something. I'm gonna have to do something like a little crazy, and I'd rather not do that for
Everson. How fun.
Yeah, exactly. I get to get Everson, so that's exciting. Like everybody, I'm super pumped about that. Yeah, exactly.
I feel like Kane is exercising some form of like FPL soft power this season. It's like, it is. Absolutely, it's one of the most remarkable things that I hope we remember it, because it's one of those. Yeah. It's by its very nature, it feels like we're going to forget that Kane did this season. But I hope that we remember and that we witness this.
It does feel like he scores in every single match, doesn't it? Like
he's had 7 blanks, surprising. Josh. 7 blanks this season. Which is it doesn't really rhyme with that narrative of he scores every week. But it is that feeling. I share this feeling.
Yeah. I mean, 27 returns in 34 matches is pretty. This would be like the Harry Kane season if it wasn't for Haaland. It's kind of remarkable how good he's been. So yeah, I mean, if I had let's say you're out there and you still have a wild card left, I would certainly bring him in on my wild card just because even though he doesn't double, just because he's so consistent. I think he's going to be scoring all the way down the stretch. And also, clearly Spurs need to score. I mean, I can't believe the ending of that game was insane. I don't. Did they score? 3-0 is the most dangerous scoreline or something. I don't know. Like what?
Everybody involved needs to be ashamed of themselves. Is my suggestion there. Andy Robertson had a horrible match, absolutely diabolical. Van Dijk just getting posterized by Perisic. And Lucas Moura, I feel like this is not the first fatal mistake that he's made for Spurs this season. I mean, what is the point of even putting a guy like Lucas Moura out on, like, just put a young kid out there?
He scored that hat trick at Ajax 5 years ago, and he's still he's still drinking off that. You know, he'll never have to buy a round in North London or something. You know, as a result. But all right. Well, anyway, let's get back to whatever we were talking about. So transfers that we're looking at. So for me personally, my transfers are focused on getting a third player for the Newcastle match in 36, and probably getting one, if not two, Man United players, because they have a nice run in 36, 37, and 38, and then. I'm not positive. I feel like 38 is a little bit of a wild card for me. I may decide based on where I'm at, right? Like if I, because it's kind of tricky. I mean, you get down there and it's sort of, especially if you're a manager who's in cash leagues, you're in kind of a tricky spot where you're like, well, I could just make every kind of obvious move here, and I could probably get second place without any worry, right? Or I can really go for it, and maybe I win first. Maybe I knock myself down to fourth, and so there are that
second place is first loser, Josh.
Yeah, it's true. I know. I have the no fear. I actually never had that no fear T-shirt, but anyway, I think I'm not. Well, let's see where we are. But I think that there are some opportunities to go a little different with the captaincy. I think. It's going to be dangerous in 36, right? With if you go with someone like Isak or Trippier, it's kind of hard to advocate for Trippier at the moment, given that he just is not getting any kind of attacking returns. Almost did today, I suppose, but ultimately, didn't again. And I don't know. I'm a little undecided on what I might do there. I might even just kind of go with like a wild card Matoma pick, but you can also just go with Haaland, right? They play Everton and. 36, probably not a terrible choice.
Well, Josh, some say great minds. 'Cause I'm right there with you with my transfer thinking. Is my target is Newcastle attacker for game week 36 and Manchester United defender for the double in 37. And from there on out, it really is. Given that what we saw this weekend, a number of serious injuries, and it's hard to account for the fluky nature of some of them, like Tim Ream breaking his arm. But I think we'll see, sadly, a few more injuries, just given all the season-long fatigue that may be setting in. Anyway, best practice to kind of be ready for a differential to come to pass, because suddenly you've got an empty spot in your squad that needs filling. And Kurt Zouma, I think he's prime candidate to become a Manchester United defender. Not in real life. I think he's probably prime candidate to go help Leeds maybe succeed in the championship. I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to debate what's in it for people who are looking for a real edge. I think Isak is a good pick if you're kind of looking to just sort of like hold, and Wilson is. I mean, there is some advantage certainly to having Isak, but I think Wilson feels like, just coming out of this weekend, that he's going to be that edge pick.
You think he's Dimitar Berbatov 2.0, perhaps, Brandon? Super sub.
He very well he's Berbatov-esque. Yes, you wouldn't be the first to make that comparison. I guess that we're coming up with the new chalk here, Josh. Is Newcastle attack and Manchester United defense are the new talking points going ahead.
Yeah, and then Man City, who knows? I mean, it's I saw somebody say earlier say something like they're the best team in the Premier League, and they have one player in the top 40 in terms of total FPL points this season. It's just Haaland and really nobody else.
It's so wild.
It is wild. I mean, there's a question from GP as to, is Grealish a hold or a sell? I mean, I thought he had a pretty good game today, despite getting 1 point for the second game week in a row. I actually feel quite lucky to have gotten out of this game week without a Grealish attacking return. What are your thoughts on Jack Grealish?
Yeah, he looked good, but this I think was what you might pessimistically predict from Grealish. Is he caught fire there? He had a handful of double-digit returns within a month.
Yeah.
And I think what we've seen the last 2 game weeks then is him like the real Jack Grealish. Fantastic player, really raising the level at Manchester City, but not a great fantasy asset. And I think the match against Fulham was emblematic of the worst parts of Grealish as a fantasy player, because whenever he got into open space to bear down on Leno and goal, he could not. He couldn't make it work. He was at his best when he was, the pass to the assist and so on. He's just so good at breaking defenses down, exploding them more or less to free up everybody else. Yeah, and I just think this is why, my belief looking forward is it's going to take something different for Grealish to actually truly catch on as a fantasy asset. Now you got to go back and listen to an episode of Always Cheating a couple of weeks ago. We're like, oh man, this guy is irresistible. Got to get Jack. Got to get Jack.
But neither of us brought him in. So
this is the nature crazy. Of the biz, Josh. We got to call him like we see him. And the frustrating thing about fantasy is it changes like the wind, man. And you just got to keep up.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting. He's like he is. You know what he is? He's a hold. If you got him, keep him.
Sure.
You don't have him, hold. Give him a couple more weeks, and then see how you feel in game week 37. I mean, it is tricky because they do play. They play home to Leeds in 35. And then away to Everton in 36. I mean, I wouldn't mind having a third player for me. I mean, I need John Stones. Is he going to play? I don't know. He had one really nice move in today's match. I don't know if you saw that, but otherwise it was
nice move.
Yeah, he had a good move. He's playing a little more advanced. It gives me a little hope that maybe he'll get more starts down the stretch. It's like a double pivot right now, right? With him and Rodri, it's sort of the way they're set up.
It's a little bit like what Trent is doing for Liverpool right now, where when the phase of play changes, inverts a little bit, comes into the midfield. I don't know how similar it is, but it seems similar. Yeah, Stones is basically a midfielder at this point.
Right, exactly. And so maybe he gets more starts, because of that. I think the question from Taylor, let's get into some of these questions here, Brandon, because a lot of these questions are having us, we're looking ahead using these questions. And Taylor said, I took a -8 to get in Rashford, Trent, and Solanke, who I benched and fell from 6,000 to 19,000 this week. I'm ahead in my mini leagues, but now that I've tasted the fruits of the top 10K, I have a craving, like a vampire. With no chips left, how can I claw my way back into the promised land? Now, the chips thing, I don't mean to do this thing where I say a question that I answer it myself before I give you a chance, because you were doing an intake of breath right there, Brandon. I was going to first note before you respond that I don't think the chips are really going to be a problem from here on out. I think that you and I mercifully get to stop talking about chips for really, I think, most of the rest of the season, which I'm really pretty excited about. I got to be honest with you.
Well, talk to me about your recent experience, because you just in the last 4 game weeks, you were inside the top 5K, dropped to 15, 16K, and now you're back.
13. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Sorry, I don't know. I don't know why I didn't have to correct you, but just yeah.
So what did it take? So is it trying to think different, or is it just stick with the plan?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think you have to be. It's fun. For me, it's fun. It's fun to be emotional. It's fun to come on here and rant. It's fun to talk about how disappointed I am in these human beings who don't care about me, and they shouldn't, and it's just a game we're playing, right? But when it comes to me actually making my transfers, I almost never make an emotional transfer. Never, ever. And, it's like, you just have to look at making sensible transfers. I just don't think it takes much more than that. I mean, I think and not make any kind of emotional move, because that's the way he's framing it. Right, I went from 6,000 19,000. The temptation, like you heard me say on last week's pod, is to get rid of someone like Cody Gakpo. I brought him in, super bummed out. Grealish is the hot player. Everyone's getting him, and now I'm stuck with this guy who got taken out in the 59th minute. But then it's like you look ahead, and it's like, well, they play. It's like they have all these home fixtures, and they play twice, and that's not the strongest move, right? That is not the move that looking at it from like a clear-eyed perspective is the smart move. I just made the simple move, right? And I think that's all it took. Literally all it took was just to make the right move to drop Gabriel for Rashford, right? Didn't have to burn points, didn't do anything, just made that move. And it's obviously I've netted instant payoff, and then I got another Rashford. We didn't talk about Rashford at all this game week on this podcast. And so I think that's really the move, is that you can get from 19 to 10, I think, by just looking at your own team, right? Not looking at the players who are hot, right? But just looking at your own team. I guess it's just like route one sort of, but it's just like fix your weakest link, right? What's the weakest part of your squad this week? How do you solve it with a double game weeker, or someone who doubles soon, and then go for that player, even if they're not the kind of fun player to bring in.
Yeah, I feel like every week somebody points out so-and-so in the top 100 in the world, has gotten to this insanely high rank without so-and-so. There are people working miracles, or who had worked a miracle months ago and have been riding that. Like I think you're right. Like if you're situated in with a good rank around 19,000 right now, the difference between that and top 10K is probably like 10 points or something like that. Yeah, and just fix your weakest link, and don't try to be all that different, because there are still lots of weird teams in the top 10,000, I would posit. It is not all this exact same template that you feel like you have to go against. If you have what you feel like is a boring chalk template team, it's all probably going to bear fruit. That's your goal. Yeah,
exactly. I think people get so caught up in like trying to radically remake their team. And I just to go back to my squad for a second, I carried a non-playing Cancelo for like 8 weeks, right, when he got moved to Bayern after the World Cup. And it was because it was just never the move that made the most sense, right? There was just never a game week. Until I ultimately did, after several weeks. But there was sometimes fixing your weakest link does not mean you've got to take out Pereira or Zuma, right? In your case, you just stick them on your bench most likely, right? And it's like you just solve a different problem. Yeah. Don't worry about and if you end up with 10 1 week, so be it, right? It's just not you shouldn't always be planning for the absolute worst case scenario.
Yeah, totally. All right. Well, do we have any other questions we need to answer here? What about this one from Joshua Biggs?
This is the last one, nice and easy, because I brought them all. I folded them all in ultimately, Brandon. They all got folded into this week's pod.
I love it, like a good meringue. Josh Biggs with the final questions asks: Is Son a sort of shout for the rest of the season? We've waited long enough, Josh. Son finally looks like he's playing decent football, adjacent to one of the most hilarious moments in recent memory is just the narrative of Richarlison. Comes in, scores this epic goal, celebrates like he just once again survived the group stage of the World Cup. Yeah, takes his shirt off.
Shirt off, and again to draw the match.
That guy is like so thirsty. It's like he's been in the desert for absolute.
It was his first. It was his first Premier League goal, right?
Yes, for Spurs, for Spurs, obviously.
Yeah.
But Son, glorious. He's been in good nick the last couple of game weeks. But I think for all the reasons we've talked about, like the teams with the good fixtures, I would much rather, if I'm going to that price point, Josh, I'd much rather have Bruno Fernandes, Kevin De Bruyne, teams who just frankly have more fixtures. Teams who are better and will have more consistently good results. And Son's just not interesting to me. Like, how bad, how far down the reaches of the mini league table do you have to be to consider Son?
I think I just wouldn't. There's just no scenario where I would consider him. There's absolutely none. And because that answer is so easy, I do want to. Let's end this on a more fun. That would have been part of a lightning round of player questions, Brandon. But then they all got kind of, even Grealish got kind of folded in. Sure. So let's end things on a final bonus question. This comes from Josh Landon, co-host of the Always Stream podcast, and the question is: Alvarez, Brandon. Alvarez. Mm-hmm. He is 6 million forward. I could literally just move Solanke to Alvarez. That is a thing, or you could move Isak to Alvarez after their double. He is not a starter, has very inconsistent minutes, but when he plays, he delivers, right? He and 8 goals and 3 assists in very limited minutes this season. If Kevin De Bruyne is at all an injury risk, is there an argument for just bringing Alvarez in and accepting you may get 0 points from him some of these matches, or is it just too risky?
I don't think it's risky. I mean, Watkins planked. Who's surprised? As good a form as Watkins has been in, he plays all 90 minutes, but nobody's ever shocked when Watkins blanks. So what's the difference with Alvarez? I guess the difference is Alvarez could pop off with a double-digit haul, whereas, that's a very forced sort of comparison with Watkins. But just thinking of who I would replace, I think it's fine. Yeah, I think it seems fun. It's going to be really annoying when he gets one start in the next 4 game weeks.
I mean, it's interesting. Like, you look at his returns, they're not as bad over the last few weeks as you might expect, given that he's not really starting that much. I mean, he's got 3 goals and 2 assists in his last 5. It's really not that bad. And it's a huge gamble, obviously, right? But given who they play over the next few weeks, right? West Ham, Leeds, Everton.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's at least something that I think has to be on the table for you, especially if you're in the I need to make up ground category, because his ceiling is so much higher than some of the other assets. Although let's give a shout for Dominic Solanke, who shockingly has offered a great value at even cheaper price point. But I don't see, outside of that crazy Spurs match. I guess everyone scores 4 goals on Spurs, and it's just like what. It's bizarre, it's how that happens. But I don't. What do you think's going on there? Is it just they're just that defensive cycle is over? They need to bring an entirely new defense. Is that like just the whole thing?
It's a strange mixture. Yeah, they've had injuries in the defense, which I don't think it helped. And Eric Dyer, sure. It's this Eric Dyer syndrome, this sort of like talisman syndrome, where you're like, well, Dyer's great on the training pitch in terms of emotion, and he's good in the locker room. In terms
Speaks
of
Portuguese,
which always comes in handy. I guess Lucas Moura might speak Portuguese. Maybe Eric Dyer is the one to tell him to just like not keep showing up for the team bus. I just think their defense is garbage, and there's really not much else to it. And I think it might come down to the players, because you'd suggest if anybody knows how to set up a defense, it would be Antonio Conte, right? Like, this is how he has done so well in his career, is that sort of the foundation he builds on. And if he can't settle it, then it just seems like it's a bunch of talentless hacks.
You went there. I wasn't going to go that far. I do like Romero.
He's a World Cup winner, I guess. So you got to tip your hat to him for that.
So is Lloris. I mean, the team is lousy with. Well, anyway, all right. So I think final thought here, Brandon, which is what is your current transfer plan for Game Week 35? Let's end on a 35 question here.
Yeah, I'm in a very roll-free transfer mood right now, and I think it is a symptom of the 2 doubles in 36 and 37. And those, I think, are big linchpins in terms of the season run-in. I would much rather have 2 free transfers to figure out how to best approach We're talking about that Newcastle double attack that we can't get because we have double defense right now. 2 free transfers would allow you to do that. I like having a bit more information, and my team doesn't have, apart from these 2 horrible injuries, any like real noticeable weak links going into 35. So that's what I'm thinking. What about you?
Yeah, I hold is where I'm leaning at the moment as well. I mean, ideally, I would be a little more aggressive with my transfer, and the only thing I would consider maybe would be an early move for Isak, and just bring him in, even though they're playing Arsenal at home, and just get that move out of the way, because I don't love. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess given what we just saw from Wolves in that Brighton match, maybe I should be more optimistic about it. But it's like, I don't know. Just they're slightly different at the Molineux, and Watkins playing in the at the Molineux. I mean, I'm just like not. I guess it's kind of a derby. I don't know. Is Wolves Villa a derby? It's like a quasi derby.
Birmingham
right?
adjacent or Birmingham adjacent. Yeah. I don't think they'd say that they're rivals or anything like that. No, fair enough. All right, so yeah, a hold I think does make sense given that we've got double game weeks in 36 and 37. Having an extra transfer if you don't need to make a move is usually a pretty good spot to be. So, all right, well, thanks everyone for listening, and you can once again support the podcast on patreon.com/alwayscheating. Good luck to everybody the rest of this game week. Once again, there's matches Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, so lots of things will change over the next few days. Brandon, I don't know if those injuries are going to get better, but you have. I noticed that Allison has 100%, I guess I should say 0% effective ownership outside of your ownership. So you need an Allison. Yeah, you need like nine saves. Yeah, maybe come up for a corner kick once in a while, Allison. Would that kill you?
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously not. Obviously.
Yeah. All right, Brandon, you want to thank our Patreon producer patrons?
Will do. Big thanks to producers Mike DePietro, Trevor Ingerson, our buddy Chris Howell, Babas Kuhn, James Holland, Dave Wagner-Lodahl, Nick Wright, Lazaros Janos, Jesse Halstead, Bruce Kerr, Brian Chin, Blair Jacobson, Todd Byerly, Andy Portlock, Dan Parsons, at FPL Merch, Kerry Swanson, Jefferson Turner, Buffalo Wildmings, Francis Moore, Sam Shower, Caleb Robbie, Valger Paulson Kruger, Alex Holcomb, James Keatley, The Saint, Bob Fox, Craig Jackson, Thomas Andre, Shalin F. Kadakia, Terrence O'Donnell, Paul Herzig, Heath Cram, Thomas Tislov, and Noah and Louise. Rate, review, subscribe to the Always Cheating Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Twitter at HailCheaters or any other social media platform that you like and enjoy using. Or find all this information at our website, alwayscheating.com.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Good luck the rest of this game week.